I'm in the dark.
This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Live from Peach Timeout in the heart of Times Square. You're listening to Beach Talk Radio with Kim and Ed Ryan.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Beach Talk Radio, episode number 117. We're broadcasting from an autonomous zone on Fort Myers Beach at Beach Timeout, and we're completely barricaded in, so nobody's allowed in, nobody's allowed out. And we have a great show lined up for you today. But before we get to that, while you were sleeping last night, a little bit of news took place on Fort Myers Beach that we really need to share you about, courtesy of Drew Hill at Wink News. And Edward Duty got into a little trouble last night. Yes, Mr. Duty was hanging out at a local establishment, and he called 911 to get the police to come and help him out because he told
Not once.
Wait, can I tell the story?
All right,
come on.
ahead.
He called 911 because he claimed that a lady had stolen his $200 in cash. And so he called 911 and the sheriff's deputy showed up. And what had turned out was he had thrown the $200 in cash, Mr. Duty did, at the woman. So he called 911 and the police officer came, the sheriff's deputy came, and he said he's going to do it again. So he called 911 again. I don't know what their second reason for was, but he called the operator, and the first deputy said, if you do that, I'm going to arrest you for misuse of 911. So he did it, and he got arrested. Mr. Duty is now in jail.
Although
somewhere.
He's smiling in his picture.
That's right. He's like, hey, I am in jail, but I'm one happy camper. But when he wakes up,
well, it's for his Instagram, I'm sure.
When he wakes up this morning, he's going to say, where am I and why am I in prison? The first thing the story says is Mr. Duty was quite intoxicated. Well, go figure that. It doesn't really matter where he was, but you know where these kinds of things probably happen. So poor Mr. Duty is out $200 and probably a little bit more than that once he figures out what he's done. And that took place while you were sleeping last night. So welcome to the autonomous zone on Fort Myers Beach. We're broadcasting live. My big question is, when you are in an autonomous zone and you call 911 because something's happening, what happens?
I don't think they're going to come. There's no police there.
That's right. It's a police-free zone. So that's crazy stuff going on out there.
I guess they're going to police themselves.
We have lots of stuff to talk about throughout the morning, lots of stuff to talk about. But before we do that, we're going to bring somebody in our live stream there. Look at that. The technology we have. Hopefully we can hear him. Casey Schubert is with us. Casey, are you there?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Wait, hold on, Casey. I need to switch one thing. I can do this now. I'm a pro. There you are. How are you?
Hello. Good morning, Ed. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can't hear him. Can you hear him?
No,
I don't know if I can.
I think you're there now.
Hello?
There you are, Casey.
Testing. Yeah, we have sound.
The reason we wanted to have you on real quick at the beginning is you're celebrating 25 years of the Calusa Waterkeepers, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. It is kind of a momentous date. The organization was formed in 1995. At the time, it was called Caloosahatchee River Citizens Association, and it was formed by some early grassroots working men and women who were already back then worried about the river and trying to and stepped up to adopt this body of water, and not just the river, but the whole estuary, spreading out to where you guys are. So that's kind of the history, and I got to do a shout out to some of those people who are still around: John Capice, Marty and Wayne Daltrey, Mary Rawle, and Ray Ann Wessel, who's just left Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation, but was one of our early presidents and directors. So they laid the groundwork along with some people who are no longer with us, and the organization went on for now 25 years, accomplishing some amazing things, but we still have our hands full. We have not licked this problem. We feel like we're We're like the little Dutch little Dutch guy with the finger in the dike. We have a whole lot of water issues in our area, as you know. This is a big deal down here, water issues, and I hope you'll all vote water in November. All of your kind listeners, it would really be great for them to step up and vote for those who are in favor of correcting these problems. We got increasingly warming waters. We got extreme precipitation events due to climate change. We've got aging infrastructure and sewage plants that are strapped by exploding population. We got nutrient loading. So we're seeing issues, whether it's red tide, cyanobacteria. By the way, there's a huge bloom of cyanobacteria on Lake Okeechobee right now. We're going to try to get up in a plane and see that. We've seen the NASA satellite photos. We want to see it firsthand. So we're worried about that. We're hoping we're not going to have a repeat of 2018, but there's an enormous bloom forming on Lake Okeechobee right now. So, that's what we're doing. We're out there hitting doubles and triples, trying to keep the nutrients in check and trying to inform people and educate people. And here we are 25 years later.
Now, I know in the press release that it said in 2006, which was 14 years ago, that the river was one of the 10 most endangered rivers as designated by the American Rivers Organization. Have we moved? Has the Caloosahatchee moved one way or the other in that designation?
It's probably stable. It is, though 2006 we hadn't seen the catastrophic algae that we saw in 2018, so that might have affected it. It's hard to get on that list because there's a lot of troubled rivers all over the country. So it's a bit of a it's quite a coup to get recognized nationally like that. Our river has probably stayed about in the same status relative to its degradation, its improvement. It's still severely impaired and endangered. So we're fighting hard to try to repair it.
Was it last year that you guys released the Troubled Waters documentary?
Yeah, we did. We did that movie in 2019. It was basically about the blooms, red tide and blue-green algae we saw in 2018. Public health. We're really worried about people's public health. So the movie focuses a lot on health. And we put the movie out in 2019, and we recently put it online. And this summer, we're doing a follow-up movie. We're going to do another movie, a big consequential documentary, more general about water quality and public health. So we're going to get into issues like fecal indicator bacteria, which is plaguing our waterways. There's a lot of, not so much the salt water. It's weird when the fecal indicator bacteria gets to above 70 milligrams on the beaches, the Florida Department of Health closes the beach. But they say nothing about our fresh waterways where people canoe and swim and fish and whatever. And we have ratings of over 1,000 consistently in some of our fresh waterways. There's no signage. So we need to get the word out for the canoers and kayakers and fishers and people swimming those rivers. It's not a good thing. So we're going to work on that. We're going to do a movie about the general nexus of public health and water quality. We're going to get into flesh-eating bacteria, which is also a nasty element. And get back to some of the follow-up on HABs because we've learned something since last year. We're going to make another movie this summer. Yeah.
Well, Casey, before we let you go, you mentioned something about before we let you go, you mentioned something about voting in November. Who should we vote for that's pro-water?
Well, you know what? Since we're a nonprofit, we can't endorse candidates. We can't recommend you vote for a candidate, but we can send you to sites that have a voting slate. So we're a 501c3, which means we got to remain nonpartisan, and we got to be very careful about endorsing candidates, especially as an election approaches. But there are 3 501c4s in Florida that create ballots where they actually score each candidate. So one is Sierra Club, one is the League of Conservation Voters, and one is Vote Sugar, the new organization put together by Vote Water, the new organization put together by Bull Sugar. So they are creating very complete ballot kind of recommendations. And you can go point by point and see what they feel about this issue and that issue. So I would direct your listeners to one of those 3 sites: Vote Water, or Sierra Club, or League of Conservation Voters, and they should get the information they need to vote.
So if I say somebody's name, can you shake your head instead of saying something? Yes or no, or out of the question? By the way, we have one of your friends coming up right after you. Robert Howell's coming on.
Oh, great. Oh, we love Robert. Robert's a ranger. He's fantastic. Yeah.
All right, Casey, well, happy birthday, and we appreciate you always coming on. You've been on the show down here, and we appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, thank you so much, and I applaud your platform for getting the word out to your listeners and keeping them entertained. It's a great show.
Thanks a lot, Casey.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
You will. Stay safe.
Casey Schulberg, everybody, from the Calusa Water Keepers, 25 years, and he looks so young.
Well, they've been for 25 years, but he's only been with them for 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he came on, he had just...
Oh, your mic's not on. Go ahead, say that again.
So they've been going for 25 years, but he has just been the director there for 2 years. He was July 2018,
I feel
which
like
is...
I'm stuck here in a corner here.
Well,
I did something wrong.
don't put baby in the corner.
All righty, everybody. So we're back now with our in-studio guests live in our autonomous zone on Fort Myers Beach at Peach Time Out. It's Robert Howell. And Robert, you're going to get that microphone nice and close. And the reason that Robert is on is because I saw Robert at a town council meeting. He came to the town council meeting and was bringing up a topic that I don't think a lot of people even knew about, that there are some stores on the beach that are selling turtles.
Yes.
And apparently that's not legal, but they're saying it's legal. There seems to be some confusion as to whether it's legal or not. First of all, Robert, tell everybody who you are and what you do and why you're wearing that hat.
All right. So hi, everybody. Some of you guys know me on the island as Ranger Rob. I'm a local naturalist. I do also work with the Calusa Water Keepers. I'm a Calusa Water Keeper Ranger. I work on the island with a lot of different organizations. I work with the Fairy Pod Mother and the Pod Protectors, all kinds of different places, just trying to be a voice for the animals and the wildlife around here.
Now, don't go so fast. Now, you said Fairy Pod Mother?
Fairy Pod Mother,
What the hell is that?
She's really cool. She kayaks pretty much these back bays. She patrols the waters, making sure people are obeying the speed limits. I'm out there with her a lot, but she's out there every single day out there making sure people are protecting the pod. So we're the pod protectors. And the Fairy Pod Mother is out here making sure people aren't getting dolphins caught in the wake, because that's illegal. Even though they like to jump in the wake sometimes, it can be dangerous for babies. So we push on that a lot, on slowing people down. We're in our little kayaks, but we'll get right in front of those big yachts and stop them sometimes.
Wow. Have you ever? So that's like that.
She is amazing photography.
That's like that show that was on cable with the whalers, or what was the name of that show?
I know what you mean. There's
somebody will remember what it is. Where those little boats were trying
stop the Japanese whalers.
What was the name of that? Oh, I can't remember that now. So the Fairy Pod Mother is in a kayak, and she's trying. Now, what is the actual speed limit out there?
So it's
days?
a no wake zone.
Yeah.
Okay. So no wake means no white water in front of the boat, and every boat displaces different water differently.
Yeah. Sea shepherds. That was it. Right.
Right. But
Thanks, Will.
Yeah. There you go. But if you're going so fast, the dolphins, if they are older and they've learned, they'll get in the wake and jump to get a little burst of speed. But if they do it on their own, that's different than a boat speeding over top of them, because then they can get sucked into that wake.
That would be an ugly way to go.
And back here is a nursery area. We have babies. We just had a baby born
right
about a week ago.
Pete's. Yeah, right behind Pete's.
Right back here. Yep.
Now, I run on the beach on Saturdays, and I've gone out on my paddleboard, and I have not seen until today. And I think it was that you were coming on the show.
I hope
there was some out there, kind of meandering around, and there was one guy on a paddleboard. He wasn't anywhere near them.
Is there a question coming?
Yes, but what should people do? What's the safe thing to do when you see, and people are curious, they want to see them. So what should they do?
So there's an organization also called Dolphin Smart, and Dolphin Smart, you can go on and learn. And what the Dolphin Smart people say is stay 100 yards away on your own. And what I have found doing eco tours, being on the kayaks, if you show the dolphins respect and you're not going to chase them, 9 times out of 10, they're going to come up to you because they're curious, intelligent animals. And the reason the Fairy Pod Mother, Monica, gets so many good pictures is because she goes out there and she sits for hours waiting for them to come up to her. And once they get up to her, they'll jump, they'll play, they'll come right up and look at her. They introduce the babies in the area to her when they're born.
What's the revenue stream for her, for the fairy pod mother? How do you make money at
So
that?
you can go to fairypodmother.com.
Yeah.
And she sells some of her photography. She also has a children's book out.
Oh,
She's
wow.
helping me write my book.
Oh, you're writing a book on
I
what?
am writing a book. On
Turtles?
on a manatee experience I had. I used to be a manatee keeper, so
What experience did you have?
It's a longer story.
Well, try and condense
Okay.
it now.
So
Is it a children's book?
it is going to be a
Okay.
children's book.
Okay.
I released a manatee.
How did you catch it?
So I was part of the manatee rescue rehab,
Okay.
and the manatees would be rescued, and then we'd work with them and then get them ready to go back in the wild. This little manatee, then we released her. She did great. I was doing another manatee release, and the same manatee that I had released about 3 years prior was still out there in the wild, came up to me, remembered me, and had a
Get
baby.
out.
That's not
And
true.
had a- it's
No,
100%
come
true.
on.
I
Come
got
on.
a
How do
picture
you
of her
know the
hugging my
manatee
leg.
remembered you?
So they memorize sounds mainly. Hopefully not smells. I hope it's not that. But they go by sound. And they have an extremely good memory. One of their closest relatives is elephants, and they're famous for their memories.
Elephants and manatees are
Close
related.
relatives. Yep. Yep.
one's on land and one's in the water.
Yeah, manatees
Listen, he's
used
a
to be on land.
zoologist. Let
Manatees
So
used
can
to be on
you
land.
let him answer the
I
question,
will
Miss
let
Know It All?
him.
He's the
Oh,
ranger.
please.
You're not.
That's what I'm telling you.
What did you say? How are they related?
So they had a common ancestor that used to live on the land.
The dinosaur?
No, those
Okay.
are more birds.
Okay.
Dinosaurs are birds. So, but the manatees and the elephants had a common ancestor. And if you look at a manatee skeleton, they still have vestigial hip bones. They still have fingers in their flippers. Dolphins and whales do as well, because they used to be on land also.
I wondered about the vestigial hip bones. I was, that kind of was.
I knew
leaning me
we
toward
had
in
a
that-
long conversation
toward-
before
in
we
that
got on about
direction.
it.
Yeah. So are you like a qualified ranger? You went to ranger school, you did all the training, the SEAL training and all that, and you became a ranger.
So I have
Get it? SEAL training?
I get it.
Yeah, she got it. I wish we still had SEALs around here. That would be cool. So I a lot of field experience, a lot of schooling, and I've done a lot just with zoos, with over in different areas, just trying to get the word out. But my passion is connecting wildlife with children mainly. If I can get to adults, that's awesome. But adults are usually set in their ways.
Mhm.
But if you can get to their kids, then the kids can sway the adults.
I don't think there's much of a challenge to get kids connected with that kind of wildlife.
Getting them connected, no. Keeping them connected, big time.
Yeah. Okay. Dear.
Well, and a big that's the education point.
Right.
Is getting them
You have a question?
educated. No.
Your turn.
Is your
So-
question going to be really long?
No. I want to get back to the turtles. Where I
Yes.
first saw you was when you went to the council
Mhm.
meeting, and there's a couple places. The one place that's selling them is right here, the Tiki Hut.
Yep,
is
right on the
selling
corner here
turtles.
by the
Now
new
tell us
Cold
that
Stone.
you've got videos and stuff of
Yep.
them. So what happened there with first of all, explain this isn't the kind of turtle that you find out on the beach.
No, so these are they are advertising them as yellow-bellied sliders. Yellow-bellied sliders are in northern Florida and the central U.S. and southern central U.S., but they are not native to southwest Florida. We also have red-eared sliders that are being sold as yellow-bellied sliders, and they're in the same family group essentially, but both of them are invasive species to southwest Florida. That means they're not from here, and they take things from the native species. So what's happening in these stores is these stores are not usually shopped from by locals.
Right.
Locals, I mean, when you guys want to buy a pet, where do you go?
Petco.
Petco, pet stores.
PetSmart.
When you go to a pet store they have all kinds of licensing and they have all the things to set you up with a forever pet. If you were to buy one of these types of turtles or a aquatic water turtle at a pet store, they would set you up with probably about a 40-gallon tank, a huge filter, and all kinds of things. These guys are selling them with a little, you don't have to buy this, by the way, a little like hand-sized container. And they are saying that the turtle will only grow to the size of the container, which is not true. And it's not true for fish either. You ever hear that old wives' tale that they only grow the size of the container? That's not true. They get stunted growth, especially the turtles, because they're not getting the right lighting, the right food, and the right nutrients. And if they're in a smaller area, they're not going to get those things, especially in these little plastic containers with the little plastic palm tree.
Now, is that not regulated by the Florida?
So it
City?
is. So Florida Fish and Wildlife, they
Yeah.
do have a lot of regulations about selling invasive and non-native species, and there's all kinds of permits you have to get. when I don't want to throw FWC under the bus or anything because they are awesome. They've done so much good in that. I stand behind them 100%. I did contact an officer and they had said that they went in and asked and they produced a permit saying that they could show or sell these turtles. The store could sell these turtles. And I still, like, even though it might be legal, I still thought in my head that doesn't make it right or moral.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept pushing for it. I started doing protests, trying to get people out here to be aware of it. And then COVID hit. And as soon as COVID hit, it kind of stopped because nobody wanted to go out. So I went to town hall then when it started back up.
You should just loot the place. I mean, it's legal now to loot.
Of
I mean,
course.
if protesting doesn't work, just loot. Or
But then I got 50 some of these turtles and I don't know what to do.
and so you went to the town council
Yeah.
and you tried to. Were they surprised? Like, did they know what
They
was
had no
going
idea.
on? Oh, really?
No,
Okay.
I spoke with the vice mayor and she was like, this is incredible. We have to get this out there. And the mayor himself said, I didn't know this was going on. So, and he was very interested. He asked me more questions than I would have expected, just in that kind of format. So I was very impressed that they were curious and wanted to know. The town lawyer looked into it and I was contacted again saying they're doing this illegally. So I don't know what kind of permit they produced to show FWC, but I just feel like it needs more. But my main purpose is if locals aren't shopping here, which I highly doubt they are, the tourists need to know these are not turtles that can be released. I found these turtles dead on the beaches. I found them dead in the back bay. And people are probably buying them thinking, oh, this is a sea turtle, just out of ignorance, not knowing. This is probably a sea turtle. Let's release them back in the wild. Well, they're freshwater turtles, so they'll die here. If you take them to a freshwater environment, then they're an invasive species and they're not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Other thing is these people are flying down and driving. These turtles are not going to go on a plane. They don't
not.
fly well.
I don't think you're allowed.
Yeah,
I don't think you're allowed to take a
I mean,
turtle.
I haven't heard of a
how do you
service
try and
turtle.
herd a? You haven't?
I
Come
have
on.
not.
Emotional
You
support.
need to get
turtle.
out more.
They need a little vest on. That I do want to see that, but
Right. So, what's I mean, if it's illegal, then you can't call 911 anymore because nobody will show up.
Yeah,
I
nobody
guess.
comes
I mean, who
I
knows?
don't
But how
think
do you?
that's-
I know it's.
yeah, I
I'm
don't know
just
that. I don't know
joking,
what
but
that's going on.
so
but
who would go in there and say, "Hey, wait a second, you can't sell turtles"?
potentially FWC, Florida Fish and Wildlife, would go in probably. I'm guessing here. This is a complete guess. They would probably confiscate the turtles and get them either into some type of distributor where they are legal to sell, or they would go back to the breeder. The owner of the Tiki Hut store says he gets them from a breeder about 50 a week, and they sell out almost every week.
Wow.
Now, I
At
will
$20
say,
a pop.
$20 a turtle. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't remember when it was, but there was a turtle bust.
Mhm.
I think it was over in the Cape or
Mhm.
North Fort Myers, where they just had, they were going out and
Yeah.
poaching turtles
Yeah.
Oh.
and and they had pictures of them in the kiddie
And
pools.
Cape
Oh, yeah.
Coral?
I think it was Cape
Mm.
Coral or
Poaching
North Fort
turtles?
Myers.
Well, I know there are
they were
some
going
people-
out all over the
What do you do
area.
with poached turtles?
Some people
Sell
they
them
eat them.
back,
Some
or
people sell
sell
them
them
and eat
When
back.
you
them.
poach things, don't you kill them and like take the tusks out of them? Isn't that what poaching is?
just stealing them from their
All right,
bed.
steal-
Well,
Stealing them.
turtle shells are used in a lot of jewelry still. That's
Really?
why the gopher
Oh.
tortoises are in danger because people will kill them, eat them, and use the
Hmm.
shell for
Oh,
Didn't
ornaments.
know
and
that. So when you call Florida Fish and Wildlife and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, listen, I need you to come down here. These people are selling." He's got videos.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
like Project Veritas. There, you got all these videos
Mm-hmm.
and of the sale and stuff like that. And they say, "Hey, we're too busy." What do they say? We're too busy. We're trying to stop some
No.
guy from building a boardwalk over a
No, not at all.
critical
They-
wildlife
They're not.
area. Is that what he's doing?
Not at all. When I first called FWC, everybody working for FWC is very, very passionate about what they do. So the first thing they did was, we're going to get right back to you. And the officer within 2 days had went into the store, checked them out, looked into it. I don't think they went much further than that, just because on the surface, it's not, a big issue
Right.
like you're saying.
Yeah.
So they probably produce whatever permit that was that says they're allowed to sell them.
Who's the permit
Hold on.
from then?
That's what I'm not sure. For the state,
Is
they
it a
have to
real
get it from the
permit?
state. I don't know. I've never
Well,
seen it.
Could
I've
be
not
a
seen
fraud.
it. I've
Could
not
be a
seen
fake permit. So where
Lord.
are some of the other places on the beach that you can name that are selling the
it.
turtles?
So I can't name any of the others because I'm focusing one at a time. So I've only done this Tiki Hut. I've been told of 2 others, one down this main street, Estero Drive here. And then there's another one on the island. And then I think one of what's the place right over the bridge by the pirate, the pirate
the golfing
golf
thing?
course. Yeah.
they're selling
That
them over there
went-
too.
I know there's one off on the other
Oh.
side of Matanzas Pass Bridge that is selling them.
So, what about Turtle Time? Are they? I mean, those people are.
Oh, they're
they
big
can
on
help.
it, and I work with them as much as I can, making sure we're doing the proper things on the beach, and that they care about it deeply, but their focus are the endangered sea turtles. So we have 5 species of sea turtles here that are taking all their focus. And right now we're in turtle season for the breeding and nesting. So all of their time is put to that, which I completely understand. So that's kind of why I took it on myself, that we got people helping these guys. We got people helping here and helping here.
Yeah.
Nobody's helping these guys. So I'm going to focus on this.
Right.
So
right.
I'm on a lot of battlefronts, but this is the one I feel like we
So
can
what if we
fix.
organize a protest where everybody's wearing like a turtle shell outfit and they're walking in front of the tiki
I
hut
could wear my
place and-
ninja outfit.
As long as
and
I
could
can
be
be
a ninja
Donatello,
turtle.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
What, you need a
take your
permit for
choice.
that, or people
No.
just we
So-
could call it a turtle autonomous zone and people would leave us alone.
So the protests I've held, I called City Hall and I called the police, and I've been with I wanted to do it legally. I didn't want to go out there and get shut down. So what I did was I called to make sure what was allowed and what wasn't. And as long as we're not on their property, if we're on the sidewalk, not impeding traffic, not soliciting or not making an issue, that's fine. So I was out there with my little pamphlet. I said, the little pamphlet says, do not buy, and it says why not to buy and where you can buy turtles for a forever home if you want a turtle. But turtles are not good pets. They're cute and they're adorable.
Oh,
but they're
well,
dirty
we have
and
it. We have
smelly.
it. Somehow we have a turtle in our backyard.
If you have an outside turtle in a pond or something,
It's not in a
that's
pond.
fine.
It's in a fish tank.
Oh,
Why are
is
you
it?
kicking me?
Because, dear, we're not talking about.
Well, maybe he could take the turtle.
But like you guys said, you guys have you think it's a red-eared slider,
I think so.
which is a non-native to Florida. So I don't know how you guys got it.
I don't.
but
How did
I
we get it?
can't.
Our daughter brought it home when
But
she
she
was
found it
young.
on-
Yeah,
but she
yeah,
found it
yeah,
on the
yeah,
road.
Yeah.
And that's an invasive species. So you took it out of the wild, which means it's not going to hurt the wild anymore. It's now a pet,
Mhm.
and you guys are caring for it. And if it was released into the wild, because it was a pet, and it depends on you guys to feed it, at 9 a.m. or whatever.
The thing freaks me out too, because when I'm walking in the backyard, the thing will follow me right.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the manatee was
And
following you all
it
over.
bangs on the
It
tank.
bangs on the
they're
tank?
smart.
Yeah,
They're a lot
yeah.
smarter than
Yeah.
people give them credit for.
Yeah.
People try to.
Are they
people
from
try to-
Are they from the elephant species too?
No,
These turtles?
No, these turtles
Okay.
been around longer.
Wow.
But no,
the damn
these
thing won't die, I'm telling you. No matter how much she deprives it of fresh water.
Oh,
those
stop.
things can
Those
crap up a
things
storm,
get-
man.
they're
Yeah.
very
Wow.
dirty. That's why.
And then
That's
it
why a
stinks.
little cup-size container that you get with these
No way.
is not going to
No.
cut
No
it.
way. Yeah.
You need
Gotcha.
a huge tank for these animals. They're also saying these turtles grow, like I said, to the size of the tank. These yellow belly sliders can get over a foot.
No
Oh my
kidding.
Turtles.
Lord.
And they're selling them. They're little, like 50-cent piece when you buy them. They grow
Right.
big and fast.
So you did the protest. How many people showed up?
It was me and a group of friends, and I would say there was maybe only 4 or 5 of it. It wasn't a big thing.
You didn't get the press to come down, or no TV coverage or anything
No,
like
we're
that?
still kind of in the infant side of it. So
When's the next protest planned?
hopefully here within either this week.
You got to
That's what I'm
get the
hoping
word out so we can get some help
Yeah,
down
let
there.
for, which I
No.
appreciate you guys having me on to do.
So did the owner come out and say, "Hey, what are you doing in front of my yard there?"
They have a couple big buff beach guys come out and you can't do this. Yeah, we can.
Really
Yeah.
trying to rough you up?
Well, the cops were called, and this isn't. I heard from the guy, but I guess the cops were called about it, and they're like, yeah, they're allowed to be there. They know because I called them and let them know we were going to do it. And what the cop had said to the people, if we weren't on duty, we'd be out there with them.
Aw.
Because locals and people who care about this, they're not going to be buying these things. I don't know
Right.
where he's saying he's selling 50 at a time,
I'd
but
like to see the permit.
that'd be interesting.
You
to
get
see
a
for
lot
sure.
of praise here from the audience. Monica says
you.
she's so grateful to have Ranger Bob on
that-
our island. You know, Monica?
That is the fairy pod mother.
Oh, Monica.
Monica
She
Lynn
hadn't
is the
even known
fairy
she
pod mother.
watched
She's gotta
us.
get a hold of
Monica,
us.
we need to have you on the show.
Yes.
The fairy
Yes, I've
pod
seen
mother.
her
She's
stuff.
been on there
She's
before,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Or did she know you were coming on? Did you tell her you were
Yeah, I
coming
told her I
on?
was
Thank
coming
you
on.
for
Told
sharing
my-
that with
told my
everybody.
local friends.
So what's the next step with, I know Rexanne,
Mm-hmm.
Councilwoman Rexanne Hossafrost has been in touch with you. And of course, Bill Veach is
Mm-hmm.
into that kind of stuff. So not that any of the council members aren't, but what are they planning to do?
So what's happening now is the city lawyer, the council lawyer, is looking into the exact. So I had to do a little research for him. They asked me to look up other cities and other things that have, for sure,
Ordinances.
ordinances against it. So what I'm trying to do is set up if it's not already in place, which the lawyer says that it's illegal to do, but if it's not already in place, I want to get motion in order to have an ordinance for no reptile sales. Just
Like
period.
nothing at all.
No
like no
reptiles.
snakes. And what else is being sold right now?
I'm not sure, but I like to cover all the bases.
Unless you're a pet store, you mean?
Pet stores are fine because they
Right.
do it through the right venues, and you go to a pet store to buy a pet. You don't go to a t-shirt store to buy a pet to carry around in your pocket, which is what they're suggesting to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Ew.
How cool it would be if all of this work that you've done turns into an ordinance. I mean, that would be
hope
like
so. That would be a dream come true.
Would you leave the island, like go try and work in a bigger market or something, because you feel like
No,
you
there's a
accomplished
lot-
things here?
Being a Clusar Waterkeeper Ranger, being part of the Pod Protectors, and just loving this environment and seeing, in only the few years that I've been here, seeing how it's kind of going down environmentally, this is a good front to
What do
be
you
on
mean it's
right
going
now.
down environmentally? What do you
The
mean?
water.
The water
Oh.
quality, and the
Just
fish,
talking about
the
with
fish,
Casey.
the fish
Yeah.
populations and things like that.
Now, I know you also do dolphin tours
mhm.
and you have a lot of videos up. You're very
Yeah.
entertaining in your videos.
Well, my dream is to have a children's show like on PBS or something, somewhere in
Yeah.
between Mr. Rogers, Bill Nye the Science
yeah.
Guy. But I love having kids on with me because we do it completely unscripted. Mom holds the phone and then I edit it, and I try to keep it as raw as possible because that's what I want to get over, is that these kids are so
Very
into
cool.
this and they're so
Mhm.
cool, and my videos kind of show that.
Have
Yeah.
you started a podcast yet? I mean,
I have
it's a
not.
big thing now.
All my videos are done on my cell phone.
Yeah.
I don't have the.
Yeah, it's more of a video.
It might be more
yeah.
of a visual thing.
it
Yeah.
is.
I'd love to like do stuff like this. If you want me on a lot more often, we
Well,
got
she's
plenty of
going
fun
away
stuff
for
to
the
find
summer,
on,
so you might
That's right.
be in need of a co-host soon. So,
I'll help out. I'll help out for sure.
all
You got to
righty.
keep them in line, though.
I'll try my
Okay.
best.
So what? I mean, what do you have a full? This might be an insulting question, but do you have a full-time job too? I mean,
do.
how you doing all
I
this?
do. I'm
So-
a naturalist. For
that a
local,
job?
for a local resort? Yeah.
Yes, he works. We can say it. He's
Where?
a pink, right?
Oh,
Right, but I'm not representing them in any
No.
way,
no,
shape,
no.
or form.
Well, we love the Pink
Yeah.
Show. We always talk positively about
Now
the Pink Show.
the master naturalist. Did you get that here? That
Through-
designation here at that Otsego?
through the classes
Okay.
and everything. Yep.
All right, so we need to get Monica on
Oh yeah,
for sure. So Monica, you have to come down in your kayak though, and we'll just interview you in your kayak. as
she'll
you're
meet you right
rowing
in Nervous
away.
Nelly. She
Yeah.
lives right across the way.
All right. Well, anything that? Oh, you didn't even tell people where to watch your videos. So do that.
So my Instagram and YouTube are both the same. It's Instagram's one word, Ranger Rob FMB, and YouTube is Ranger Rob FMB, and FMB stands for Fort Myers Beach.
Well, thank
So,
you so much
yeah.
for coming on, Robert. We appreciate your time, and
Thank
we
you
look
guys
to
so
have
much
you
for having
back
me.
and
Yeah,
let us know
thank
when
you
pleasure,
so
you
much.
guys.
Yeah.
let us know
Thank
when the
you.
next protest is, so we
I'll-
can come
I'll
there and hang
Definitely
out.
save the number in the phone.
Yes, I
Thank
want
you,
to wear
guys.
my ninja turtle.
All right.
outfit.
Right.
Robert Howell, everybody, make sure you check him out on his YouTube page and his Facebook page, not Facebook, his Facebook page. And I'm going to tell everybody about Fort Myers Tiki Tours. No Facebook. Okay, sorry. YouTube and Instagram. I should know everybody young is on Instagram. And Fort Myers Tiki Tours is open for business, and they are, I'm reading the ads now. So what happens when I read the ads? You go get the next guest. We've only been doing this for 2 years now. Private boats for up to 4 people for only $119.99. For up to 6 people, $179.99. That's total per boat. This is Fort Myers Tiki Tours. You've seen the pictures on Facebook. You see people are out there enjoying themselves and having a great time. And we want you to get out there also and enjoy the Fort Myers Tiki Tours, folks. You bring your own booze. You bring your own ice. No, they have the ice. They have the ice. They have the captain. They have everything that you need. They have the safety equipment so you don't fall off and get eaten by sharks or big turtles or anything like that. They're 90 minutes long. And that's a perfect time for you to take all the great pictures of everything out there on Fort Myers Beach. Sunset cruises are only $20 more, so call Fort Myers Tiki Tours, 239-887-0042. That's 239-887-0042. And we appreciate Fort Myers Tiki Tours being a sponsor for such a long time. And right now, we have a special guest coming on with us. Pastor Ivan Corbin is with us. Pastor, we have here it is. This is brand new. They clean them off every show. And the reason that Pastor is on, unfortunately, there you go. I'll turn that mic down. There you go. How are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. You've been on the show before. How's it going?
Yeah, going well. Hectic, frenetic, bizarre,
Yeah.
everything, all the above, like everybody else.
So first, before we talk about the departure, is everybody back in church?
Not
How's
yet.
that going? So
No,
still,
we've been doing it. We record a virtual worship service every Saturday and post it by 9:30 every Sunday on Facebook and our website. And we do a Bible study through Zoom. We do our meetings through Zoom. Most of our congregation is in the high risk group, and we're not going to put their lives in danger just trying to bring them together. So, so far, so good. It's
have you found that when you had to go virtual, that more people were watching than would come to that specific time?
For this time of year, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've got people that normally have gone back north, that have joined in with us now. They're watching us from up north. Usually they would go home, they go to their church up north,
Right.
and that would be it until they come back down again. So now they're doing their church up north and our church. We're finding that they like to do both.
Were you always doing virtual? No. Okay, so
This is a brand new adventure. My wife takes out her iPhone and she records my sermon, and we put together the service. She takes it back to the house. She edits it on her MacBook Pro.
Nice.
This is all new stuff to her. She was running our tech for worship, and we would record the audio for my sermons and put that on our website.
Just the audio.
Just the audio.
Uh-huh.
And now we're doing a full video. Now we don't do a full length service. We've learned through experience and through some other experts that people will only watch us for so long,
right,
and then the drop off rates is significant. So our average watch time is about 9 to 10 minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now that's given everybody that logs on. So when you look at the statistics on it, you got some that stay with you the whole time, and others that kind of click in, say like, and then they're gone. But the majority, it's 9 to 10 minutes. So you've got to kind of get into everything within that 9 to 10 minute window. Realize that you've lost quite a few of them. So
do you think you'll keep this going once you go back to being inside the building?
Well, I won't keep it going. I'm taking the technology person with me to Homestead,
okay,
but the new pastor coming in, we're already working with her, working with a team of volunteers to figure out how to make that happen, because my wife's iPhone and her MacBook Pro go with her too. So
how dare you?
Yeah, exactly. Now we're looking at things like Mevo and some other things, and then some.
That's a camera, right?
It's a camera system.
Yeah,
and you can operate with your iPhone or an Android, and you can operate it with your iPad or something.
Different camera angles, and yeah.
Well, the basic one is just like it can zoom in and out on you.
Right.
But I've seen some friends of mine, like in small churches in Ohio, they've got great camera angles. So I don't know what they're using. I got to find out what they're doing.
Yeah. You can get really
they're doing
crazy.
Some good stuff. Yeah.
You get really crazy with the technology.
But we're finding that there are a lot of people now that are doing this, that have never done it before. We've got people that are watching or engaging that might not have showed up on a Sunday, but they are now. So, and they can do it anytime they want. The good news is we would love to be live streaming, because then you can get on in real time reactions like you guys can get here.
Right.
We're not to that point yet, but even without that, it's kind of neat because we'll get feedback from folks and they let us know what they thought of things. And but yeah, the Rich Louth family, he's a local here, who his wife got transferred with her business to Switzerland. Well, he joins in on Bible studies and comes in and meets with them, and they watch the service in Switzerland. So we know that we have an international audience.
Very
now.
cool.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
So you didn't think about maybe just throwing it up on Facebook Live and YouTube Live and doing it like that, or?
Well, that would be the next step.
Yeah.
And the church I'm going to, that's what they do.
Cool.
It is on live.
So the world right now is probably crazy. As crazy as it's been in a long time. And do you find that more people are coming to the church or paying less attention to the church, or is it the same?
Yeah, well, it's hard to gauge because we're not having one-on-one interaction, and we're not seeing people in person. So that back after September 11th happened, churches filled up.
Yeah.
And then after the intense reaction to September 11th, churches went back down again. My guess is if this had been something like that, we would have had a huge surge of people coming to church. And then once the initial disaster and the grief and the anger and everything had subsided, then you would have seen a decline in this. I do think it's interesting that church buildings like St. John's in Washington, D.C., have drawn attention back to the church in some positive ways and some negative ways. You know, when a church is used as a prop, that's a negative way. When a church is actually doing ministry, and they were taking care of the protesters and giving them water and food and other stuff, when the world paid attention to the juxtaposition of those two things. Mm-hmm. And the Episcopal bishop, she minced no words about how she felt about being used. And even here, nobody would come to my church and use my church for anything unless I gave permission or they asked first. And if it's a reasonable request, we give them permission and stuff. And I'm sure that if the president had asked, can I come to your church?
Instead of just going.
They might have said, yeah,
Yeah.
but please don't disperse people with tear gas and other things to get it cleared out. So, but it's a very strange time because we've been dealing with COVID, and when we first shut down somewhere around March 15th, something like that, for in-person worship. We were all thinking this is a 2-week to a month-long thing. We'll flatten the curve, and then we can get back to business as usual. Well, we're now, 3.5 months, 3 months into this, whatever it is.
Right.
So how, being that you're virtual and you're not able to, pass the plate.
Well, a lot of our people, they would send in their offering anyway.
Okay.
And what's happened is they're either making direct deposit. There's e-giving. There's a variety of ways people have been, but they've been very faithful, and we're very thankful. We did apply for the PPL, and we're given some of that to help pay salaries for 2.5 months. And that comes at a very good time for us because our giving usually declines significantly this time of year anyway.
Was it off even more because of what happened? Or
No,
were you able
actually,
that's
what's
great.
really bizarre is the people gave more than they did this. We checked compared to last year at this time, the giving was up.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is we have had feedback. We've had some folks tell us, thank you for not worshiping in person and putting people in danger.
Okay.
Apparently there was 1 or 2 churches that didn't stop having in-person worship.
Right.
And the folks said, well, thank you for not doing what they've done, because we know that a lot of your people can be at high risk. So they may have given more. I know that one person, my office manager, said we got a check from somebody that said they saw us online, and they aren't here at the beach, and they've never been in our church building.
That's the great thing about being out there. You never know when you're out there on the online stuff. And
Now I kind of feel like a televangelist, but I don't want to be in that same camp because that's not what we're about. That's not what we're about.
With the COVID going on and all the other stuff that's going on right now, people are, apart. Have you been getting more requests for individual kind of meeting with you, or
No.
how are people dealing with that?
I think people are dealing within their own family units and within their own circles. Like I know a lot of the people that are still here live in condos and stuff, so they're kind of getting their personal interactions with the other people in the condos. Others are doing like our family. We do a lot of FaceTime. We even had a Zoom meeting. We have a new granddaughter that we will not get to meet until it's safe to do it. So we had a Zoom meeting for anybody in the family that wanted to join in to meet Millie out in Leeds, South Dakota.
Wow.
So what we did do at first was set up a team of volunteers to start calling everybody in our directory. And they did that initially. And what we found is that the loneliest ones are the ones that were lonely before are still the same lonely folks. So we're encouraging them to keep making those phone calls to them and keep interacting that way. Others said, we're good. We're in Ohio, we're in Illinois, we're in Michigan. We're doing good. We got our family, we got our friends here that we're talking to and stuff. So, it's been bizarre because normally we would possibly have an uptick again in any other kind of disaster, but we haven't had so much with that.
So you're going to Homestead at the end of this month.
Yep.
Why are you leaving?
Well, I'm under appointment in the United Methodist Church. You're under appointment by the bishop 1 year at a time. And every year you evaluate whether or not the finances can sustain your salary, whether or not you're a good match with the church and stuff. And we have loved it here, and we wanted gone in and helped fix problems, or we've identified challenges and helped address those, and then leaving the church healthier than when we first got there.
Mhm.
And I think we're doing the same thing here. Even though it wasn't our intention, that's kind of what's worked out. So,
So now is the homestead, are you planning that to stay there, or is that
Oh,
more
yeah, yeah,
feeling
no,
like
we
an
have-
interim thing for
we
you
have
guys?
never gone to a church thinking this is going to
Okay.
be an interim. So,
Well, in my field, there's traveling therapists. So, I mean, and if you're doing that, you're
Oh, yeah.
going to be there
Yeah.
for 13 weeks and then, fill a need and move on. So I didn't know if that was actually a
no.
thing.
In this case, they've had a series of pastors that have been there for short term for a variety of reasons. And in the last two, the one that we're following, they needed to be closer to family in the middle part of the state. So they've only been there 3 years. The one before them was only there 3 years. The one before them was only there. And so what they're hoping for is a long-term pastor, and that's what we're hoping for. And so that's what we're going in with, the idea that we're going to be there till probably for another 7 or 8 years at least.
So what is it that
That's
you?
a nice place to be.
Yeah.
Well, Homestead will be we having served in Key West for 7 years, Homestead was where we would go for district meetings or go shopping at the mall at Cutler Ridge and stuff. We were there when Andrew hit. So Homestead was also a staging. The church itself was a staging area for a lot of the early relief efforts and things. So we have all those old memories. Homestead is a much different city now. It used to be 20,000 people. It's 100 and some thousand people.
Wow.
The Air Force Base is reopened again. It was closed for a while. They've got the racetrack there now, but it's still agricultural, meets city, meets the Keys,
Right.
and we've already heard from a lot of our folks here who love going down to Key West. We're going to be seeing them every time they go down
Nice.
to Key West.
So what do you feel like the biggest accomplishment for you was here at Fort Myers Beach?
Well, I think figuring out what this church needs to do to move forward. Some of the greatest fears are when you've got 5 Protestant churches on an island like ours, and the year-round population after 2008 declined significantly because of people turning their homes into rentals and everything else. Do we really need 5 Protestant churches on an island the size of ours? That question is still out for grabs. I still think there could be some cooperative ministries between our churches. And so one of the things I'm glad to have been involved in is the Ministerial Association that started doing more things than just having an Easter sunrise service and maybe a Thanksgiving service. They've started working together in other areas. And part of what helped make that happen, unfortunately, was when Dr. Leroy was killed. We came together to try to answer the question, how do we still serve the hungry and the homeless and those who are, and also not enable and equip them for any future violence. And I'm glad to say, man, that's the first time we talked.
Right.
We wondered what was going to happen with all that. And all of that, basically, the folks that we see here and the folks that are served at Chapel and served at Beach Baptist are pretty much the same people that were being served before that incident. In fact, there may be even fewer, because the ones that I talk with, they realized that when that happened, they became persona non grata even more than they already were.
Right.
So
and for anybody that's new to the show, Dr. Hammerding was the librarian at the library down the street, and he was murdered by a homeless person who Dr. Hammerding was helping.
Right. It is somebody that he knew well, and this guy was off his meds, and my guess is that he was, unfortunately, Dr. Hammerding was a target of opportunity, because he was going to find somebody that day.
Right.
He could have just as well walked in the front doors of my church, and I was actually in Key West at the time for an anniversary, and heard about it from one of our neighbors. She called and let me know what had happened, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
But I had a visiting pastor here. He could have gone in our church because he used to worship in our church and all the churches here. And he could just as well have done it to any one of those folks. So unfortunately, Dr. Hammerding, by being somebody who helped him, he also held the line with him. He gave him boundaries. And unfortunately, when he was off his meds, he saw those boundaries as disrespect. And that's what he told the officers, was when he disrespected me. We don't kill somebody over disrespect.
Right.
But in his mind, that was...
So I always wanted to ask you about this crazy, I shouldn't say that, but we hear a lot about this one person on the beach.
I hear about him too, and I've never encountered them.
Okay. There's
Consider yourself
a
lucky.
preacher that he apparently is rude and yelling at people and things like that. And I always wondered if you knew him or knew what was the deal with that, or why he was doing that, but
every community has their street evangelist some of the and I use the term evangelist very loosely because evangelism means good news.
Yeah.
And when they are using tactics that berate and they tell people they're going to hell and other things, I don't think that's a real effective evangelism tool. We had it in Key West coming out the wazoo.
Oh, really?
We had, and Key West was also, it would attract interesting folks to come down during the winter and other times. But we had one guy who he and his wife would stand on the street corners, and she was almost, you could tell she was almost a victim of abuse. She did whatever he told her to. They would use local campgrounds and stuff, their wash houses, without permission to wash their clothes and things. And then if you challenged them, they would start quoting scripture at you and condemning you and telling you you're going to hell and stuff. So that's, those folks are everywhere.
we hear a lot of people asking us if we know what's going on there, or we see people texting.
Have you tried to interview him?
No, I've never seen him either.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
what time he's around or anything like that. But one time somebody said he was actually here in Times Square, and he was just standing in the square there preaching or whatever he's doing. But I've never seen him there. So what are you most looking forward to when you go to Homestead? The newness.
The newness. Although I'm now, since I've been at this for 34 years, the newness gets a little old after a while because you really don't like moving. I hate packing.
How many times have you moved in the 34 years?
Let's see, 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
I think, which includes a student pastor.
It's like a radio guy.
Yeah, kind of. Well, my dad worked for Gerber Baby Food, and so when he got a promotion, it usually meant we got a transfer. So we used to live in an area for maybe 4 or 5 years and then get transferred to another place that Gerber had a plant. So I was kind of used to moving around. My wife was a preacher's kid and a missionary kid, and she was used to moving around. So we were kind of made for this, but we really don't relish it. So the newness is good. We're looking forward to going to a community that has the diversity that we're kind of used to seeing. Fort Myers Beach has 2 kinds of communities here. We've got the folks that are here year round, and then we've got the community that serves the tourists and stuff. We are a fairly homogenous group. When you look at the demographics here, we're pretty white, middle class.
Yeah.
Homestead is a little bit of everything.
Right.
And so it's going to be quite interesting. And the church itself reflects all of that. And there's a school with this church. There's 350 kids in a school from 3-year-olds through 8th grade there. So I'm looking forward to working with families and children and stuff again. And
what's your answer to racial harmony?
Actually engage in listening to folks of color, and especially our African-American friends, and asking them, what do we need to be doing? Because I'm coming at it from a person who is a person of white privilege, even if I don't want to acknowledge it or even recognize it. And I also, having done a heck of a lot of genealogy and stuff, my family goes all the way back to Jamestown. So my family also goes back to those who have owned persons who were enslaved. And so I'm not a big fan of thinking about figuring out reparations, but I am a big fan of saying that Black Lives Matter. But I think also we need to get to the point where we recognize all humanity as being of equal value. So whatever I can do to do that. I'm reading, what I've done for myself personally is I took the recommendation of some friends, and I'm reading the book White Fragility.
Who's written that one?
Her name's D'Angelo, and it's a book written by a white woman who basically her job is cultural sensitivity for businesses and schools and other things. And she realized as she taught these classes how insensitive we are towards others that are different than us, not just Black persons, but persons of color, persons of other ethnic backgrounds, whatever else. And so she's written a book that has been written by other people that are persons of color and Black people, but white folks don't tend to read their books. Mm-hmm. So she wrote this book with the intent that white folks might read her book because it's harder to argue with somebody else who looks like them. And she's right, but it's an excellent book. So it's called White Fragility by D'Angelo. I can't remember her first name, but it's but I'm halfway through, and now I'm getting to the point where I want to say, okay, so she's set up the whole thing about where we are. Mm-hmm. Now what?
Yeah. Now what is where we are now, right?
Now what is where we are?
Because the protesting and all that stuff will have to end, and somebody will have to stop just offering up lip service of
absolutely
Hollywood making videos or PSAs and things like that. Somebody has to do something because, yeah, obviously there needs to be change.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. And what we don't need is a lot of knee-jerk change,
Right.
because what I think's happening in some cases, in order to protect political position or whatever else, people are making some knee-jerk changes that may be more damaging.
Like
in the long
defund the
run.
police.
Well, yeah. Well, what does that even mean once you keep
Right.
repeating that over and over again? Do you really not want to have somebody respond when you dial 911 and
Correct.
somebody's breaking into your house or stealing your car or whatever else? I don't think so.
Right.
And I come from a family that has law enforcement, so I've seen all sides, and I've done
Right.
ride-alongs as a chaplain.
Wow.
So in Key West and in Boca Raton and DeLand, and I've seen policing done well, and I've seen policing done not so well.
Right.
But I would not ever paint all police as being in the same camp, like I would not paint any group as being in the same camp. I wouldn't paint the looters and the really violent folks that have taken advantage of the protests in the same camp as the protesters.
Right, for sure.
Uh,
So, what do you want to say to the residents of Fort Myers Beach that know you?
It's been great. Keep keeping on. We're in the midst of something we've never experienced before, and we hope we never experience again. But one of the great things about Fort Myers Beach is that because it is a small community, people come together. I've been more impressed with the activities of the hashtag We Are FMB,
Right,
and
right.
the help for all these folks that work around us. Everybody stepped forward, and it wasn't just the churches, and sometimes it was not the churches, it was the nonprofits and just individuals and other things. So I
Yep.
just want to say well done.
Yeah.
And thank you for taking the lead on that in many cases. And the other thing is I'm going to miss things like being part of the Mound House volunteers and stuff. We have such cultural opportunities here, between the water and the historical and the tourist oriented things. My prayer is that we can move from red tide through COVID, past the COVID, into some good times again. for
Some
folks.
just normal times.
Just normal. Well, it'll always be a new normal, right?
Right.
Everything's going to be a new normal. But we thought we were going to get to a new normal after red tide,
Yeah.
and we moved right into COVID. So,
What could be next?
yeah, what could be next?
Well, we thank you for coming on. You've always been a great guest, and we appreciate your time and wish you the best of luck and hope you stay in touch.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank
Pastor
you,
Ivan
guys.
Corbin,
for all
everybody,
you've done.
thank you very much, and we'll see you. We'll see you in Homestead.
Yeah,
Or pass
come
it
on
through on our
by.
way to
Come
Key
on by.
West,
We're right
hopefully.
on. We're on Chrome Avenue. We're right there.
All right. Have a great weekend. We appreciate your time very much, Pastor Ivan Corbin. And I want to tell you folks about our friends down at Shuckers at the Gulf
Are you
Shore.
gonna shoo me out now?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I want to make sure I read the right commercial. Shuckers at the Gulf Shore and Cottage Bar. Good friends
Wow.
down there. They're open every day, 8 a.m. to close, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a late night menu. They also have happy hour Monday through Friday from 3 to 6. And they have like this coolest brand new, what do they have? Cabana. That really is like being in a resort that you need to
It
go
looks
check out. I'm sure it's
amazing.
sold out until Christmas, but maybe not. Maybe you can squeeze in a day there. And they're right down, I don't know, maybe 200 yards from here. So you stop at Pete's, have a little beverage, and then head on down to Shuckers and then sit right in the back and look out at the beach because that's super cool. So the other thing I wanted to tell everybody about was starting Monday, we do these questions of the day, dear.
You do them.
I do the questions of the day because I'm obsessed with the Facebook and watching people comment on certain things. Like last week, we had a bunch of people commenting on the flag, not the American flag, the Confederate flag, and people commenting on Seattle. And that's why I kept saying, the Fort Myers Beach zone that we're in here, the autonomous zone, because of what's going on in Seattle. What do you think about what's going on in Seattle?
I mean, I think it's crazy. I do believe in people's right to protest and say their piece and have their opinion. But, when you take it too far, then that's the line.
Like, did you ever
me,
think somebody or some group of people like that are Americans, not that are like invading Russians or Chinese, would take over a police station in a United States city, like our own people that would do that? It just seems like it's almost hard to, it's hard to, when you say that, it's hard to believe it actually happened. And I mean, the leadership, I think, has to be totally held accountable for that. You can't abandon a police station and let people take over 8 city blocks. I mean, what happens after 6 weeks of that when, somebody is either having a baby or somebody gets sick or somebody gets stabbed, then they call 911. What's going to happen?
Well, I mean, there's so many issues with, sanitation and
Right.
and all of
It's
it.
like a refugee camp is what it's going to wind up being. But anyway, I digress. We had the flag, we had the Seattle, and we had Robert E. Lee,
Mhm.
who is praised all across the country for his great work as a general, but was also a plantation owner, and you know what that means. And so I guess there's a bust somewhere in Fort Myers or a statue.
Oh,
I have a resolution that I'd like to submit to the United States Congress of America, and that is that nobody deserves a statue. Nobody should have a statue ever again, because nobody's perfect. Why does anyone have a statue? Because eventually it's going to be a statue of somebody that offended one group, because you can't go through life and not offend at least one group, and then they will pull it down. And you see the Mojo, I don't even know where it was, where he pulled the statue down and fell on him. I mean, they have to learn how to pull statues down like they do in Iraq, because they're good at that. When they pull them down, the Saddam statues, nobody ever got killed by it. So that if you're going to pull the statues down, you have to learn how to do it the right way.
well, you have to get out of the way.
Right. Clearly, you have to get out of the way, because those things, are fairly heavy. So I guess this whole big thing in Fort Myers Beach is going somewhere. Carrie Weig made some kind of proposal. She lives on the beach here, as you know, about
Yep, she's been on the show.
taking that Robert E. Lee thing and moving it to a museum, and then putting some kind of fountain over there, of Freedom Fountain. So that's
I
going.
think that's a good idea. I think that's a good, yeah. I mean, it is you can't erase history. So you can't just
I just don't think
not look at it and you have to learn from it and move on. But I think it is good.
But do we need statues of people? You don't need statues of people.
I don't know. I mean, it's already here. So I think it's a good idea to
They're
move
taking-
it to the
They're starting
museum.
to talk about taking Christopher Columbus's statues down, and also so now all the Washington monuments are going to take down too, because there were slave owners. I mean, how far does it go? Just take them all down. You don't need any. Nobody needs a statue of. Take down what happened at Penn State with whoever's the coach of Penn State. They took his statue down. Everybody's statue needs to come down. Well, he didn't do the pedophilia. His buddy did there.
Listen, I'm not going to get into
So
that.
we had
part
those
of
questions,
history.
right? So what you're saying is leave it up, or
I'm saying that it's a good idea to move it. If it's part of history, move it to a historical
put it in a museum and explain exactly what everybody did.
And then
if
you
wanna
can
go
learn
see it,
from it.
right.
That's what hindsight. That's why they
Right.
say hindsight's 20/20.
But the thing about Robert E. Lee is he has no connection to Lee County. He's never been to Lee County. It's like, why wasn't it called Thomas Edison County or something, or Henry Ford County or something like that? Why?
I don't
Take care,
know.
Ray. There's Lee County Commissioner Ray Sandelli, just happened to stop by the show.
I
It's just
know.
one of those things. People, when you're as famous as Kim Ryan is, you have the commissioner that stops by and wants to chitty chatty with her.
He's always so,
so nice,
positive and smiley. He loves the beach.
Yeah, he
gets
loves coming
giddy
down here.
coming down.
Yeah.
I know. He just loves
I
it.
can't get down here enough.
Mhm.
He's running into campaign, by the way. He is up for re-election this coming November. And so,
Well, yeah, he's up for. I mean, he was appointed last time, and so
it's not really a re-election. You're right. He was appointed, so he's running for election. And he's the kind of guy that really wants to do the job. He really loves the job. But if he doesn't get elected, his life's not,
And I have seen a lot. We've had other people on that are running, and I've seen other people's signs. I haven't seen anything from him. And when I said
Right.
to him, "Hey, how are you doing?" I was just a general question. He said, "I've been so busy with the CARES Act and all of that stuff." He did not make one mention about any of the
campaign.
other stuff. Like
he's got a bit of an advantage because he's got FaceTime on in front of people now. He's been on the council for months. But speaking of the council, if you haven't had a chance to check out Brian Hammond's page, he posted some brand new COVID numbers this morning about Lee County. So you want to check those out. I shared them on our Facebook page. I shared them on my page, and he posted them this morning. So you want to check those out. So anyway, back to the original point. We had some great questions. And starting Monday, we're going to have a brand new sponsor for the question of the day. And Carla Pine has a new business. Did you know that?
no.
She's kind of transformed her business. It's called Custom Painted Furniture Creations.
That's awesome.
And she's going to be the sponsor of our question of the day, which means that every morning when we put up our new question, whether it's local or national, I mean, I think that when you post the national questions, a lot of the local people are interested in things like that. So that's why we kind of mix them up. But Carla is still in the same location, 1901 Estero Boulevard, Suite 3. And you really need to go on her Facebook page and check out some of the furniture that she's painting. Premier, of course, she's got Premier Dixie Belle chalk type paint. She's a dealer of that kind of paint. I bet you didn't know that you could deal in that kind of paint. She specializes in unique painted furniture painting classes.
Yep.
You need to go to one of those because you
I-
ruined our furniture with
I-
that shit you painted on it,
I
that
didn't.
white paint.
Everybody loves that chalk paint.
The
and
chalk
I
paint
just-
on that white thing?
Yes.
It doesn't even look like it's finished. It looks just like
because it's called distressed. You ding dong.
it's
You
distressed, all
you
right.
put it on, and then you
What?
take
What?
sandpaper and you distress it. That's
The white thing.
Yes, that's the way it's supposed to
Okay,
look.
well, I don't see any classes for distressed
That's
something or other
the
here.
chalk paint. I don't think it's Bell chalk paint. I don't
Do you
know.
know she's got jelly bean rugs?
Oh, no,
I-
that
does
sounds
that-
like fun.
Does that mean that the rugs actually have jelly beans in them, or there's some kind of
doubt
make of
that.
jelly beans? Because that would be interesting. Would you like some jelly beans? Only 18 people walked on them today. They shouldn't be too bad. All right, so check out Carla Pine's Facebook page. It's Custom Painted Furniture Creations, and yes, Debbie, she's awesome. Now, wait, is that Debbie from the tattoos? Does Debbie do the tattoos? I think that she's right next to the tattoo place. So I don't get out enough anyway. So she's going to be sponsoring our question of the day. And it was such a busy week last week. With the Margaritaville thing was in court on Tuesday, and it sounds positive for those of us who want it built. It sounds like it's going in the right direction, but you would never want to predict anything when it comes to a court. So
There's a lot of legalese talking.
I mean,
Yeah.
when people came to the conclusion that they thought it looked like it would come out in his favor and Tom's favor, I was like, wow, all of that stuff just went right over my head.
Yeah.
All that legal stuff, I was like, wait, I have no idea what he just said, but it sounded like he knew what he was talking about. Even the Ralphie Brooks guy over there. So we're just waiting for that to be posted on their website. That's how they do it. And then I guess the next step would be that Patton and her financier, Bob Conadieras, could decide that they want to take it to the Florida Supreme Court if they lose, which I don't know that it would go there. I think if there's a certain ruling by the second district, it wouldn't, because they could just not even offer an opinion
Wash it.
and it'd be over. But that doesn't mean they won't try and find something else to file a lawsuit about. I mean, that's just sounds like the kind of people they are. And if not, if it all goes away, then maybe we'll see a shovel in the ground in that dilapidated area over there. That
You'll be right over there.
I will
digging.
be over there.
Yep.
I'll be over there digging in the cement. So that took place this week. Cops was canceled. Did you know that? Live
Jillian,
PD
yeah,
was
I know.
canceled. My
That's-
favorite, one of my
I know.
favorite
Jillian
shows.
was very sad about
Live
that.
PD was canceled. Did you know that Lady Antebellum changed their name
I heard that
to
too.
Lady A? How idiotic is that? Antebellum in their name was because of a certain type of house.
Yep.
And they decided that it was offensive to, I guess, somebody. So they changed their name. They've been Lady Antebellum for 30 years, or 20 years, or however long they've
Not
been.
30.
I mean, but they changed their name to Lady A. And the last thing and the most disgusting thing was that people are now petitioning to get the name of Splash Mountain changed. Did you know that Splash Mountain is offensive to people?
No.
Apparently, there are two characters somewhere along the ride. I think that's how it goes, that are offensive to people on the ride.
I have been on Splash Mountain ride.
So
But was so devastatingly scared that my eyes were never open, so I didn't see a thing.
you're a liar.
No.
Splash Mountain?
Yeah.
Is that the one I've been on?
Yes, we have pictures of you looking.
Yeah.
But it's in the dark.
Yeah.
I remember it being in the dark, and then you come out, and then it's like
It's so now it's now it's scary and offensive. So there's a petition to change. What would you change Splash Mountain to if you had to change the name? What would you change it to?
I don't know.
I mean, it's been Splash Mountain forever. right? I mean, isn't that silly? Haven't we gone too far?
Well, I don't know.
Can't
I
they just
think
call it the Disney Autonomous Zone and not worry about that?
I'd rather not.
So
say.
what hell of a week it's been for local stuff and national stuff. There's a council meeting on Monday, and the Bayside Park thing has been huge. I don't know if you guys have been watching our Facebook page about that. At least the people on our page think that it's an ugly eyesore. The Bayside Park, there's a Save Bayside Park Facebook page now that's been created if you want to check that out. And the Bayside Park building will be the new home for the mooring field folks, and that's the folks that live out on the water. It's a $1.3 million building, and it also includes a park. It includes a stage for music. I think I heard the council say it's 30% for the mooring field people, and the rest of the stuff is for the locals. It's going to have public bathrooms if it goes through, but it is not on the agenda for Monday. Now, you can go to any council meeting and you can talk about anything you want during your 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be what's on the agenda, but it is not going to come up on Monday as far as I can tell. But Bay Oaks is going to come up, and they're talking about a project, a multi-million-dollar project. But on Monday, I think they were going to approve, like $40,000 for the survey or something like that, or for the design, or it was just it's not to approve the building or anything like that. So stay on top of things. And of course, we'll have the meeting live as we do every time the town council meets. So that's going to be Monday at 9:00. What were you looking for?
I was looking for my notes from the meeting that I attended that Charlie White had.
Oh, yeah.
When?
The BACA meeting.
The BACA meeting.
Where they
and
talked about the big building over there.
No, they talked about everything, but they did talk about the big building and that Bayside Marina.
Bayside Park? Oh, the marina over there. Okay.
Yeah. And all the construction. And there is a meeting. They're going to be downtown commission meeting on June
The Lee
12th?
County Commission. You should ask your buddy Ray Sandelli who was
know.
walking by. So Jane Plummer told me when that meeting was. So I am going to pull it up while you're looking. Jane was telling me that they're having, here it is right here. I've got it right in front of me. It's going to be the second floor of the county courthouse on the 17th at 9:30. And that, I think, is the final approval from the county that they need to start construction. Apparently, that place over there, that area over there is pretty nasty. It's not nice.
Listening to him talk about when the first iteration was 175 feet. That is really tall, because the marina over here, when you come over the bridge, that building seems super tall to me, and that's 65 feet.
Wow, 175 feet.
And
Wow.
then it went down, and then twice it went down, and now the proposal is, I believe, 100 feet, which is still pretty high.
Yeah. So that is coming up on June 17th. So a lot of meetings coming up in June, and in July, the council doesn't meet, so it'll be kind of slow. But again, check out Save Bayside Park if that's something that you're into. The building has not been approved yet. They're still talking about that. And then we have the Times Square refurbishing that's coming up. So all these three projects are going to cost $10 million total if they all get approved, and about $10 million between Bayside Park, Times Square, and Bay Oaks. So that's what we're looking forward to for the next few weeks. So. All right, so on Monday, we'll have our question of the day sponsored by Carla's new business, Custom Painted Furniture Creations.
Oh my goodness, wrap it up.
And we appreciate you guys sticking it out. We apologize for the disconnect there while Pastor Corbin was talking, but we appreciate you guys sticking around. And of course, if you have anybody that you'd like us to interview, feel free to tell Kim, because she does all the work during the week to line up the guests. Thank you to our guests today, Ivan Corbin, Casey Schulberg from Calusa Waterkeeper, and Robert Howell. He is a ranger. Rob Howell, the ranger. And also, we want to say thank you to our sponsors, as always, Pete's Time Out. Who else? The Tiki Tours, Shuckers and the Cottage Bar, and the Fort Myers Tiki Tours. So until next time, everybody, have a lovely weekend. Come on down to the beach, spend your money, and
Wrap
that's
it up.
And bye-bye.